You want to know which quarterbacks and tight ends you should start or sit in week 5? We'll go game by game through all the matchups for week 5 of the fantasy football season to tell you which players should be in your lineups and who should be on your bench. Now, there are some players you don't have to worry about. These are the must starts at each position. At quarterback, Pat Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. At tight end, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson. Don't forget, there are 4 teams on bye this coming week. That's the Chargers, Seahawks, Browns, and Buccaneers. Before we get into those matchups, a quick announcement.
Introducing our new app, Draft Lane. Connect with us anytime for your start sit, waiver questions, and more. We can instantly access your roster and tell you the exact right moves to make. Access your past leagues and climb the Draft Lane leaderboard and see how you stack up against your competitors. Both Yahoo and Sleeper are supported. Download Draft Lane today and use the promo code ENDGAME to receive $10 in your account. Available on the App Store and Google Play.
All right, let's start with the Thursday night matchup. There's no better place to start than to talk about Justin Fields. The Bears now going to take on the Commanders. Which Justin Fields are we going to see? The week 1 through 3 version, the week 4 version, somewhere in between? What do we do with Justin Fields?
I think you have to start him now. I mean, which version are we going to see? Who knows? But look, it wasn't like he just had a good game in week 4. He had a great game in week 4. So I think if you got Fields, you just got to roll with him again this week and take whatever you get.
It's crazy how quickly we went from you can't start him to how do you not start him after what we just saw. Here's the thing is he went off, had a huge fantasy day, and not by rushing the ball, not running in multiple touchdowns, just with his arm. I don't think we're going to see that again because it's not the Broncos defense, but I think we've got to believe at least the spark is there. You know, we've seen the flashes now, the talent, the actual passing talent that is there. I mean, I feel like if I got Fields, I want to keep rolling him out and see what happens. Washington's defense is good, but it's not a shutdown defense. So if I have Fields still, then I'm starting him. And then we also have to ask about Cole Kmet, who went from doing nothing to catching 2 touchdowns and being one of the top scoring tight ends in week 4. So how do you treat him in week 5?
I treat him like a streaming tight end, and that's it. Look, maybe Chase Claypool being gone was what Kmet and this whole offense needed. And look, remember last year when Fields started to light it up? Kmet started to go off too. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Not just going to put him in my lineup because he had 2 random touchdowns. But I think if you need a streaming option, he's fine.
Yeah, at least he's jumped back into consideration. You don't want to just look for a guy who's coming off a big week. I think he is streamable, but like you said, that matchup last week was just prime. And so I think he's okay, but not a must-start. And then Sam Howell also showing signs of turning things around, putting up some numbers. And now he gets to face the Bears. Is this a sneaky start?
I think so. Look, he's been very Jekyll and Hyde this year, right? One week he looks good, and the next week he looks like he shouldn't even be on an NFL football field. But it's the Bears. I'm not going to say you have to start Sam Howell, of course, but he's got to be one of the better streaming options this week.
Look, there are some quarterbacks who are on bye that were regular starters, guys like Justin Herbert. He's not going to be my favorite streamer just because I want to at least know I'm getting something at quarterback in a single quarterback league, but he is a possibility. If you have to dig deep, then at least he has that upside. And then at tight end, Logan Thomas is back, resuming the starting tight end role. You know, is he a guy you go with because of the matchup?
Yeah, I think the matchup is good enough here. Again, I'm not going to say you have to start him, but if you're desperate and you need a streaming option, he gets red zone looks, he gets targets, he'll work.
I'll say I think I'd prefer Kmet to Thomas just because, you know, he's higher up in the pecking order in terms of target share. Washington does have some good receivers, so I prefer not to go with Logan Thomas. Jacksonville Jaguars are still overseas, but this time they have to face the Buffalo Bills. What does that mean for Trevor Lawrence?
I mean, you can't feel great. They just shut down that Miami passing game, but I mean, are you going to bench Trevor Lawrence and go stream a guy like Sam Howell or something like that? No, I hope not. So I think if you have Trevor Lawrence, you're putting him in your lineup and hoping for the best.
I'm going to be a little optimistic here and say, yeah, go ahead and keep Lawrence in there. I mean, it's not a great matchup here going against Buffalo. Like you said, they have a lot of talent there. They had kind of underachieved the first couple of weeks on defense, but I think this could be a high-scoring game. I'll say go ahead and trust Lawrence this week. Evan Engram been quietly consistent and productive at tight end. Is he mostly set and forget?
Yeah, I feel like, I've been saying it pretty much every week, but especially now, if you got Evan Ingram, you just put him in your lineup and don't even think about the tight end position.
Yeah, gonna agree. You got Engram, maybe not huge upside, but he's good enough at tight end. And then for Buffalo, let's talk about the rookie Dalton Kincaid. The results haven't quite been there, but it seems he's getting on the field and getting involved a little bit more as a route runner. Is that enough, though?
No, his ADOT is like 4, which I think is like 44th among all tight ends. Not a lot of upside here. I don't want to start Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, I think it'll happen. He still interests me long term, but this week, I'm going to look somewhere else. And then, of course, that means Dawson Knox being less involved. He, to me, is touchdown or nothing, and I'll look somewhere else.
Yeah, same thing. Not starting Dawson Knox.
Texans taking on the Falcons. CJ Stroud has been great. Does he keep it going in Atlanta?
Why not? At this point, CJ Stroud, if you got him, if you picked him up off waiver wire, looks like an every week solid start. Roll him out again.
Yeah, exactly. This is even better matchup than he's had the last couple of weeks against Atlanta. I think he's a very solid, dare I say, low-end QB1. Desmond Ridder, not so much. Look, this Texans defense we thought would be a great defense to stream against, but I don't think it does even matter with Ridder.
No, you cannot start Desmond Ridder. You're risking negative points in your lineup with Desmond Ridder. You can't do it.
Yeah, you can't start him even in Superflex. That's how bad it's gotten. He's not losing games for them single-handedly, but he's definitely not helping you win in fantasy. And then this is like my least favorite part of every tight end starts it. We have to talk about Kyle Pitts. What do you do with Kyle Pitts?
You can't start him. You just can't. At this point, you're just asking, for pain if you start Kyle Pitts. There's no way you can start Kyle Pitts.
And the sad thing is, it's not even his fault. Just the rate of catchable balls and targets going his way is so low. That's not going to change. So Pitts, at this point, you just got to bench him. But yeah, here we are talking about another tight end in Atlanta who outproduced Kyle Pitts. That's Jonnu Smith. Had a big game, almost 100 yards last week. Is he startable?
Sadly, I think he is. You know what I think is going on here is they're asking Kyle Pitts to run like really deep, routes, and Desmond Ridder can't throw them. And then they're asking Jonnu Smith to run these little dinky nothing routes, and that's what Desmond Ridder can throw. So I'm not going to say you have to start Jonnu Smith, but he's streamable.
I'm going to say no just on principle here, but also I really just don't want to trust any Atlanta pass catchers, so I'll say no to Jonnu Smith. Panthers at Lions. Seems like two franchises going in opposite directions. Let's start with Bryce Young, the number 1 pick. Has had a rough time so far. Does he turn it around in Detroit?
Probably not. On the road against a really good Detroit defense. Not really putting up good fantasy numbers anyways. Even in 2 QB Superflex, I cannot start Bryce Young.
You can't start Bryce Young. Just so conservative, not throwing it deep. There's no upside here. There's no upside, and Detroit's defense, like you said, is actually good this year. In fact, I think the upside is limited enough. Look, I'll tell you what, we talk about these pick'ems on Underdog all the time, and if you look at it right now, early in the week, 206.5 passing yards, that seems pretty low, but guess what? That would be his career season high, because last week his 204 yards was his new career high. And look, if you haven't tried Underdog yet, let me remind you, they have a new customer special, and it's Justin Fields going over 1 yard. And then that's for Thursday night's game. You take that pick, you combine it with the Young pick or any other pick that you like, and you can triple your money just like that. But if you are new to Underdog, make sure when you sign up, you use promo code ENDGAME to get your deposit match of 100%. And you can combine it with any of the specials they have going. Always new offers all the time. So just make sure when you sign up for Underdog, use promo code ENDGAME. On the other side, we've got Jared Goff, who's been solid. And now we get home Goff. That's usually a good thing.
Yeah, home Goff is a good Goff. I think even in a 1 QB league, he's streamable and startable.
Yeah, he's pretty much a solid start every week. I don't think he's a smash spot for him because I really don't think Carolina will put up much of a fight to make them have to pass the ball that much. But yeah, Goff is a pretty solid QB1. And then there's Sam Laporta, who's, I guess, doing the things that everyone wished Kyle Pitts would do. Best rookie tight end for sure. Is he just a set and forget tight end now?
Pretty much. I mean, he hasn't been lighting the world on fire like it seems with the way everybody's talking, but he's giving you decent points at the tight end position. I think if you got Laporta, you're rolling with him.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little overhyped, but like I would say there's not many tight ends that I'm going to just go out and say, yeah, you start over him. So if you got Laporta, keep putting him out there. Titans at the Colts. Start with Ryan Tannehill going at Indy.
Yeah, I mean, I never get excited about Ryan Tannehill. I don't think this is a game he's going to have to throw a lot. Even in 2 QB Superflex, I can't do it.
I honestly can't remember the last time anybody even asked about Ryan Tannehill. Like, even in a Superflex or a 2 QB league, is that the best you got? I mean, you can't start Ryan Tannehill. At tight end, they still have Chig Okonkwo, talented player, but stuck in Tennessee. Any interest here?
No interest. I mean, he's probably going to need at least DeAndre Hopkins to miss a game to have any interest at all. Can't start him.
Now, fortunately, that upside seems to have evaporated once the season started, so can't start him, really don't need to roster him. Now, on the other hand, we got Anthony Richardson of the Colts. He's been as good as advertised. Now he gets Tennessee. Where are you putting him?
Anthony Richardson, I mean, how long do we have to go before this guy's an every week no doubt must start with everybody else? But, I mean, maybe that's a little high right now, but I'm ready to put him in there. But for me, I got Anthony Richardson. He's absolutely in my lineup.
Well, I have a feeling after this week, if he goes off as expected, he might be in that category. I mean, if you have AR, again, unless you happen to have a stud, one of those first 4 guys we mentioned at the top of the show, I think you have to start Anthony Richardson. Giants at the Dolphins, I'll just come out and say it. I don't have to start Daniel Jones. And in fact, I still question why anybody drafted Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I mean, barely even startable in a 2 QB Superflex league.
And I'll say this week, the Dolphins defense has definitely been underachieving, but even they, I think, can contain Daniel Jones from a big game. So not starting Jones. And then what about Darren Waller? Look, I thought at least last week he could do something against Seattle, not even then in a good matchup. Is it time to bench Darren Waller?
It has to be. I mean, if we're going to bench Kyle Pitts, we have to bench Darren Waller. He's been horrible. The Giants' offense looks horrible. That was a smash spot, and he did the opposite of smashing. You cannot start Darren Waller.
Yeah, I whiffed on picking Waller in week 4. Thought he might have a good game, but did not when I said, I'm not drafting Waller this season. I really have him nowhere on fantasy teams. I was worried this might happen. So, yeah, if you have Waller, it's time to start looking for a new tight end, maybe. And then there's Tua Tagovailoa. Disappointing week 4. Gets to go back home and face the Giants. That could be the remedy.
Yeah, this is a great spot at home. You got to start Tua.
Yeah, I think firmly in the top 10, must start. Durham Smythe, he's always out there on the field. He's just doing a lot of blocking and not getting a lot of targets. Is he a guy you could stream?
No, I mean, look, Noah Fant had a decent game against the Giants, but I'm not trusting Durham Smythe, no.
Touchdown or bust. I mean, there's not that many high-end tight ends on bye this week, so you really shouldn't need a guy like him. And we got New Orleans taking on New England. Let's start with the quarterback. Derek Carr didn't even miss a game, although maybe he should have in retrospect. On the road in Foxborough, can you trust Carr?
No, not even in 2 QB Superflex, because is he healthy? Can he throw it down the field yet? Cannot start him in this matchup.
Yeah, it's a bad spot. I think he'll be better down the road, but this week, going to avoid him if possible. And New England, I guess we have to assume Mac Jones is still the starter, although he did get pulled late last week during that game. Mac Jones, he can't be started in fantasy, can he?
No, not even in 2 QB Superflex. No chance.
No chance at all. What does that mean for Hunter Henry, though? Going against New Orleans, not even a great matchup for him.
Yeah, not a great matchup. I mean, he could always score, but he could always do nothing. Barely a streaming option this week.
Yeah, but again, I hate this. New Orleans defense has been pretty good, especially against that tight end. I'm going to go a different direction at tight end. Ravens at the Steelers. A lot of people hoping that Pittsburgh will go a different direction on offense. Well, for now, let's see. At quarterback, Kenny Pickett seems like he avoided a serious injury, but definitely going to be in question for week 5. The real question here is, does it matter for fantasy?
No, I mean, already in a tough matchup against the Ravens, and now he might be less than 100%. No, hard pass on Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, hard pass on Pickett. Mitch Trubisky, I have to ask if he plays. Are you playing Mitch Trubisky in fantasy?
Harder pass on Mitch Trubisky.
Gonna agree with that one. And then to make things worse, Pat Freiermuth also banged up with an ankle. Not sure his status. If he plays, do you play him?
I don't think I can. I mean, again, we've seen these guys banged up. They barely play any snaps. They're ineffective. Normally, he's a guy you just put in your lineup and don't worry about. But I think this week, coming off the ankle, if he even plays, I'm going to bench him.
Yeah, it's not like the upside here is so high that it's worth taking a risk. It's not, and especially the quarterback situation, the matchup. No, just forget Muth, bench him this week, find someone else. Bengals at the Cardinals. Here's another tough one. Joe Burrow, not sure what's going on there, but look, if you have him on your team, you thought he would be your guy. Is he your guy this week?
He can't be, right? I mean, that was a great matchup last week against the Titans. It's another good matchup against the Cardinals, but look, the Cardinals have been putting up a fight. He might not have T. Higgins. I don't think you can start him. 2 QB Superflex only.
Yeah, based on how he looked last week, there's something going on. Like I said, Higgins probably not going to play. I mean, there really is no upside here at the moment based on the way this offense looks. You're going to have to find a different quarterback, at least for this short term. And on the other hand, a guy who's been better than Joe Burrow in fantasy, that's Josh Dobbs, QB 14 overall in the season. Can Josh Dobbs be a solid streamer if you need a replacement for like Justin Herbert this week?
I would not want to be streaming Josh Dobbs in a 1 QB league, but I think he's a solid QB2 in your 2 QB Superflex leagues.
Well, you know what? I'm coming around on Dobbs. I think because what we've seen from him, he's actually got some rushing upside, something Burrow never really had and doesn't have. This matchup doesn't scare me either. I think Dobbs is actually going to be one of my favorite QB streamers this week. And then what about Zach Ertz? Getting some targets, not really doing a whole lot. What do you think against Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, he did have a touchdown go right through his hands, but there's just not a lot of ceiling here. I mean, he's not my least favorite streaming option. He's not my favorite streaming option, but if you're desperate, he'll get you some points.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, Bengals statistically not good against the tight end so far, but also it's not anything that's going to make me really inspired to start Zach Ertz. So he's okay if you need him. Eagles at Rams. Dallas Goedert, sadly, no longer a must start. I mean, he's just not done a lot for 4 straight games. But is he a guy that you're just outright benching?
I'm going to say I think you have to. Like, if we're going to bench Kyle Pitts, why aren't we benching Dallas Goedert? He has 13 catches and 88 yards in 4 games. And he didn't miss a game with injury. He's played every game. I mean, look, if there's nothing on your waiver wire, sure, play Dallas Goedert. But if possible, I'd like to bench him.
It's really weird, too, because it's not like the Eagles are really deep at receiver. Because Watkins has been hurt. It's been just Smith or A.J. Brown, and they're picking weeks. So I don't know why Goddard isn't getting involved. But like you said, at this point, just find someone else until things change. On the Rams side, at QB, Matt Stafford cooling down a little bit from his hot start. What do you think against the Eagles? I mean, on one hand, could be a high-scoring game. On the other hand, Philadelphia's defense is starting to look better.
Starting to look better, but somehow Sam Howell played pretty good against them. But, I mean, Stafford to me is a guy, like, I don't love him in 1 QB leagues, but I think in your 2 QB Superflex league, he's solid.
Yeah, I don't think I want to start him in a single QB league, even if I need a streamer for this week because of buys or whatever. I would reserve him for Superflex only. And then Tyler Higbee, now that Puka Nacua has become a superstar and everyone forgot about him, that Tyler Higbee actually had a good week in week 4. Is he back on the radar?
I mean, barely a streaming option, but look, not if Cooper Kupp is back. If Cooper Kupp is also back, then no Tyler Higbee. But if Kupp doesn't play this week, he's at least streamable.
I mean, I do remember thinking the Eagles were one of the worst defenses against tight end. I don't know if it really matters. Look, if you need a tight end, sure, you can go with Higbee, but only if Kupp doesn't play. Jets at the Broncos. Zach Wilson's still the quarterback for the Jets because he actually looked like a decent NFL quarterback last week. And now he gets the Broncos. I mean, are we going to talk ourselves into? Nah, probably not.
I'm going to talk myself into him in 2 QB Superflex only, just because it's the Broncos. I mean, they're awful. They're historically bad defensively, and he looked kind of okay last week. I don't expect a big Zach Wilson game, but I think as a QB2, he's fine.
Well, yeah, if you need a second quarterback, I mean, look, I would rather play him at this point over Desmond Ridder, whoever's quarterback of the Steelers, and some other guys. So, Superflex, sure, this week. And then Russell Wilson, starting to look like the Russ of old, but now he does get the Jets. So, what does that mean for him?
Yeah, I liked him last week as a streamer. He came through, but not this week. I'll still start him in 2 QB Superflex leagues, but that's it.
Yeah, look, Broncos riding high because they actually won a game. That was the Bears. I mean, look, they could win this game, but for fantasy purposes, I think this is a letdown for that passing offense and Russ. So I'm going to bench him unless it's Superflex. Chiefs and Vikings. Well, as far as quarterback and tight end, the only player to talk about here is Kirk Cousins because obviously you're happy with either of the Chiefs options, and TJ Hawkinson's still a must start. Is Kirk Cousins a must start after kind of a letdown in week 4?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big Kirk Cousins bounce back week. He's at home. It's the Chiefs. They'll need to throw a lot. They'll need to score points. I really like Kirk Cousins this week. Start him even in 1 QB leagues.
I will say I don't love this matchup as much as I did a couple of weeks ago when I saw it in the schedule because, number one, the Chiefs' defense has been a little bit better, especially their pass rush, and their offense hasn't been. So maybe this isn't a super high shootout, kind of like the Eagles-Vikings was. But look, single quarterback league, he's still a top 12 quarterback, so startable. Cowboys at the Niners. Really, this is a matchup of 2 elite defenses. So where does that leave Dak Prescott?
Yeah, I mean, you can't love him this week again against the 49ers, but look, maybe this defense can't shut down this 49ers offense, and they'll actually have to throw, and the offense will have to score points. So Dak not necessarily my favorite QB in a 1 QB league this week, but I still think if you got Dak Prescott for the most part, you're starting him.
Well, knee-jerk reaction here is, and you don't want to start the quarterbacks here because the defense and the pass rush is so good. But then you think about it, 49ers do have a good offense. They could put up points. This could be a game that's like a surprisingly high-scoring game. Maybe that's overthinking things, but look, I will just say this. Dak Prescott's not going to be my first choice in a single QB league. So if you have a streamer with higher upside, and there's really not that many this week, you could start him over Dak, but he's still startable. And then Jake Ferguson getting a ton of targets lately, but could you roll him out against the Niners?
Not a great matchup, but I mean, he's getting targets. He's always got a chance to score. I definitely think he's streamable.
Yep, always going to be streamable. I'd rather not this week, but again, not a lot of other options at tight end. And then what about Brock Purdy? Super efficient so far, but does that really make him a fantasy starter?
Not for me in 1 QB leagues, not against this Cowboys defense. I mean, he's got weapons. He can always, dump it off to CMC or something, but this is a tough matchup, so I'm going to put him in the 2 QB Superflex only.
Yeah, I really think they're going to lead the way, as they have been really this season with CMC in the run game. That's where you can hurt the Cowboys more so than the passing game. So I'm worried about Purdy this week. Deep Superflex option only. And then George Kittle, also no longer must start. He's been disappointing as well. Do you start him if you have him, though?
I don't think you can. I mean, the one good game he's had this year, Brandon Ayuk was out. He hasn't topped 30 yards in any of the other games. I mean, he's given you nothing. Again, why are we railing on Kyle Pitts so much, but we're not railing on guys like Darren Waller, Dallas Goedert, and George Kittle? Like, he has to score a touchdown to give you anything. So I guess Kittle for me is not an outright bench because at least I feel like he might be able to score, but he's really right there as just a streaming option for me.
I mean, look, if you're lucky enough or smart enough to pick up a guy like Laporta, then maybe you could put him over Kittle. You probably don't have another tight end that has more upside or that you feel better about. So this is just another example of why I say I didn't like drafting George Kittle where he was being taken this season. I mean, I don't want to start Kittle, but you probably don't have a better option. And then Monday night, it's the Packers taking on the Raiders. Start with Jordan Love. Been a little bit uneven lately, of course. Kind of embarrassed last week. Does Jordan Love bounce back here?
I mean, he's got to, right? Against the Raiders. This feels like a very good bounce back spot for Jordan Love. Maybe not my favorite streaming QB in a 1 QB league, but I certainly think even in a 1 QB league, he's worth a start.
The matchup is everything here. Raiders, not a great defense. They have somewhat of a pass rush, but he's got weapons. I think Love is a decent streamer in single QB leagues. And then Luke Musgrave, well, didn't get to do anything last week because he left early with a concussion. If he's cleared and comes back, do you play him in week 5?
Yeah, I think he's got to be one of the better streaming options. It's the Raiders. He was getting involved. He was looking good. I think if he plays and he's cleared, he's one of my favorite streamers this week.
Yep. I mean, he'll be a forgotten guy because, like I said, coming off a game where he did nothing, Christian Watson's back, but the matchup shows that he is a guy that you could put in over, let's say, a Waller or a Kittle. And then for the Raiders, big question, will Jimmy Garoppolo be back? He also missed last week with a concussion. If he plays, do you play him?
I will say one thing about Jimmy Garoppolo this year is he's throwing the ball a ton because this defense is terrible, but it's not a great matchup. Barely 2 QB Superflex.
Yeah, there you go. Just because of the lack of other options, 2 QB League Superflex, sure. Other than that, no. And then if Aiden O'Connell, the rookie, gets his second NFL start, is he even on the radar for deep leagues?
No, you'd have to be beyond desperate to start Aiden O'Connell against the Packers. No chance.
Yeah, this might be a case where I say, well, you got Desmond Ridder? I guess. All right, that's the breakdown for quarterbacks and tight ends for week 5. Don't forget about everything else that you need to know to help you win in fantasy on our week 5 playlist right here.